We have David versus David again today. Joining me here on set, we have David Webb. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us. And you are the host of the David Webb Show. I was like double checking the name, but I guess it's pretty easy.
I make it
David
simple,
Webb
David Webb.
And then we have David Mercer.
I have to look.
Yeah, exactly. David Mercer joining us live from Washington, D.C., and he is a Democratic strategist. And there he is. Good morning to you, David.
Pleasure to see you. Good morning to you and David.
All right, so let's start with the very latest unemployment numbers. It did drop from 9.2% unemployment down to 9.1%, and the numbers were better than expected. 117,000 new jobs created. That was better than the forecast. Nonetheless, as we just heard from our correspondent, Doug Luzader, a long way to go, and also that doesn't count the people who have given up or who are underemployed. What do you make of it all?
Is that to me? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry, David Mercer.
Yeah. Listen, it's one set of numbers that you got to clap at, and with the cloud removed from the negotiations that we just went through on getting the debt ceiling raised, I think you need additional applause so that we can remove some of the uncertainty as we saw over the last 2 months in terms of whether or not we were going to pay our bills. And now you see some indication of, again, resuming a downward trend on the unemployment rate. So hopefully with both, we can start picking up steam on this economy. The president today, I believe, is going to be asking Congress to have a veterans job bill for those coming back and asking corporations with a tax credit to hire more veterans. So I think, we need to focus on job creation at this point, and it's good to see we are getting some headwind on that.
David Webb?
Where do I start? Okay, 400,000 new unemployment filings, down 1,000 from the prior week. That was last week's numbers. The underemployed, the U6 numbers, those who have left the market. We have about 70,000. We don't have the final numbers on private sector jobs out of that 117,000. The fact is, it ticks down to 9.1%, but it's anemic. Anemic is a nice way of saying it. And we're going into a part of the winter when there would be an uptick in employment, if you will, and it doesn't look that way, especially for college graduates. They're at a 17.3% rate, especially in blue-collar sectors, which are now losing jobs. And by the way, I'm sorry, I do have to mention this. What I don't like coming out of Washington is, frankly, as Americans, we're already used to the sin of omission, the lies, the misstatements by our politicians, in general, on both sides. But in all of this, we're being sold fear-mongering. 70,000 construction workers kicked out of jobs, not doing it. Now we find out the real numbers are 24,000.
And now you're talking about the Federal Aviation Administration shutdown.
Right. Going out ahead saying it's the fault of the Republicans that people are off the line, they're not going to be able to feed their families, whatever. Now we find out they're not true. What I'm going to is confidence with all of this. When we have fear-mongering and flat-out lies, when we have these anemic numbers, when we have the market, by the way, for the short sellers yesterday, it was a good day. For those that come onto it today after the Asian markets close, another good day. Bad manufacturing numbers, the ISM numbers. When you add all this together, the confidence is so damaging to our economy, and it doesn't help when the president stands up at the podium at his birthday party and says, well, I promised you change, but I didn't say it was going to come overnight. The president has a huge bully pulpit, and that is an irresponsible statement to make to the markets, to businesses, to the world.
All right, let's David Mercer, talk about what happened with the markets yesterday, this huge drop in the Dow. Chris Wallace today was saying that he had spoken with some major economists, and that many of them said that despite the perception that this had to do with the U.S. debt ceiling talks, et cetera, that it was actually more about concerns about the global economy and particularly about the economic situation in Europe. What do you make of what caused this selling yesterday?
I would tend to agree in that with regard to Europe, and the global markets, there was concern. You had what we were going through in terms of there being some doubt as to whether or not we would pay our debt by raising the debt ceiling for goods and services that we already bought. And secondly, having what's going on in Italy and Greece and other European countries. However, we did do our part. Who knows? The markets could have gone even lower had we not done our part, and I think that's almost a guarantee. So at least we held it off, and I think they will stabilize. And going to the issue of uncertainty, one thing we can be certain about is, one, we no longer have to deal with the debt ceiling issue for the next 18 months until 2013. Secondly is going back to David's issue about confidence. You know, I would have loved to have seen David during the Bush years when we were losing 700 jobs during the Bush era in the last remaining months, 700,000 jobs a month. We have arrested that, and we are trying to bring it down and beyond.